Around the early 90s, the gaming industry was making a major shift from 8-bit graphics to 16-bit graphics. This was a huge graphical leap, and home video game consoles were just starting to really cement themselves into the average household. One of the biggest household names within the console industry was Nintendo. At the time, Nintendo was dominating the video game market with their popular 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System owning about 90% of the market share. Sega was one of the biggest companies competing with Nintendo and wanted to punch first at making the leap from 8-bit graphics to 16-bit graphics. Thus, in 1988, Sega released their 16-bit console known as the Sega Genesis in North America and the Sega Mega Drive in Europe and Japan. While Sega got a head start into the 16-bit generation of consoles, it still wasn't enough to compete against Nintendo's dominant hold on the market. It wasn't until 1990 that Nintendo was ready to make their leap into the 16-bit console generation with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. With Nintendo's new 16-bit console making huge waves within the industry, Sega desperately needed an answer to stay competitive within the market. They needed a game and a mascot that could stand up against Nintendo's very own console seller, Mario. Sega needed an answer, and they needed an answer fast. Thus, Sega launched an internal company-wide campaign to help create what would become their new company mascot. Many ideas were submitted, such as a rabbit and a guy with a really big mustache who was later developed to become the main antagonist of the franchise, Dr. Robotnik. Designer Naoto Oshima finally decided upon designing their new mascot after a hedgehog. This was because the lead programmer for the project, Yuji Naka, wanted a game mechanic where the character could turn into a ball to gain speed. The hedgehog was perfect as they could turn into a ball with their spikes on the outside, allowing the player to kill enemies from all directions and be nearly indestructible when rolling downhill to gain speed. With the hedgehog seemingly being the perfect animal for their new company mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog was born. During early concept phases, Sonic's original name was going to be Mr. Needlemouse, and he was going to have a human girlfriend named Madonna. Oh my god, thank goodness they scrapped that idea, right guys? Sonic's trademark blue color directly reflected the blue from the Sega logo. His iconic strapped shoes were inspired by the boots of Michael Jackson, with the red and white coloring taking inspiration from the vibrant and joyful colors of Santa Claus. Sonic's personality adopted the cool, rebellious attitude of the 90s. Sonic had many aspects about his character design that made him burst at the seams with personality over the competition. His absolutely iconic eye design could dynamically change shape to make so many different expressions. The spikes on his back flowed behind him that also literally and physically reflected his edgy attitude. His mouth could change positions so he could always be seen with his rebellious smirk and finger wagging. Sonic as a character was shaping up to be exactly what Sega needed in order to directly challenge Nintendo's Mario. Sonic's rebellious attitude was also reflected in the gameplay. The very concept of Sonic spits in the face of traditional platformers. At the time, platformers were blocky and slower paced in order to precisely jump to get past obstacles. Characters you controlled just moved at a static run speed, and it more or less felt like they all controlled the same. The YouTuber The Geek Critique makes an excellent analysis about this in his video talking about what made Sonic so revolutionary. I highly suggest checking it out. Sega wanted a game that utilized speed so they could show how powerful their 16-bit console was. Sonic took the concept of a traditional platformer and flipped it on its head. Sonic the Hedgehog was so dynamic as his worlds were filled with slopes and loop-de-loops, which gave the player the opportunity to gain momentum and speed as you blast through each zone. Momentum is the key word here. Sonic is anything but static. Even when you try to have Sonic stand still in this game, he will turn and look at you impatiently, tapping his foot, asking you, what could you possibly be doing that is more important or fun than playing his game? Ironically, when making Sonic the Hedgehog, Yuji Naka was heavily inspired by the original Super Mario Bros. Game, saying, "Back then, games didn't allow you to save your progress. So when you wanted to play Super Mario Bros., you always had to start from World 1-1. You could use the warp zones to skip many of the other levels, but you always had to play through World 1-1. Doing so eventually became kind of tedious, so I always tried to get through the level as fast as I could, and that inspired the initial concept for Sonic the Hedgehog. Now let's talk about what Sonic is all about: going fast. You can't just hold right on your first time playing through a level and expect to blast through it. It takes skill to go fast in Sonic games. Speed acts as a reward to players who replayed the levels to master their design. There's no other feeling like blazing through a level you once struggled with because you took the time to master it. With other platformers at the time, once you beat a level and you replayed it, for the most part it felt the same. That is not the case with Sonic the Hedgehog. The levels in Sonic the Hedgehog were expansive and had multiple branching paths, something rarely seen in platformers at the time. This meant every time you replayed a level, it felt like something new. Generally, Sonic levels are split into 3 different paths: top, middle, and bottom. The top path is what you want to go for, as it usually contains hidden ring boxes, shields, and extra lives. Also, the top path was generally the fastest path. It's hard to stay on the top path, but if you do, you are heavily rewarded with speed. Even if you did manage to fall from the top path, the level gave you multiple chances to work your way back up. Speaking of the top path, are you guys MLG Pro Elite Sonic gamers? If you guys are, feel free to check out my merch store where I sell a bunch of designs like this Top Path Gang merch and a bunch of other stuff, so I'll provide links down in the description below, and let's continue the video. The main collectible in the game, rings, were a brilliant idea for Sonic. Rings didn't act like just a regular coin in other platformer games. They acted as Sonic's health system. As soon as you got hit, all the rings you had collected will come flying out of Sonic, giving you the chance to try and recover them. This gives players huge incentive to wanting to collect rings, as you needed them to survive. As long as you had one ring, you could survive getting hit by nearly anything. This made running through a trail of rings and hearing that iconic sound all the more satisfying. Now, let's talk about one of the last things that is so iconic to the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise: loop-de-loops. Loop-de-loops served a major role in Sonic's level design. In a way, loop-de-loops acted as a speed check. If you weren't going fast enough, you wouldn't be able to get through it. You'd then have to go back to gain some speed and try again. But if you were going fast enough, loop-de-loops acted as a mini reward and spectacle as you effortlessly come out the other end with even more speed than before. Thanks to Sonic's amazing character design, rebellious, cool 90s attitude, and revolutionary gameplay that broke the barriers of the platforming genre, Sonic the Hedgehog was a massive success when it released on the Sega Genesis in 1991. The breakneck speed of the gameplay and the beautiful worlds brought to life by the 16-bit graphics was an excellent testament to the power of the Sega Genesis. Sonic the Hedgehog was exactly the hit title and mascot Sega needed to stay competitive in the industry. But staying competitive wasn't enough for Sega. They wanted to win the console war. Sega then made the bold move to cut the price of the Sega Genesis and bundle in their best title for the system, Sonic the Hedgehog, for free. Between this and Sega's aggressive marketing campaign at the time, having a Sega Genesis and playing Sonic the Hedgehog was the new cool thing to do. All of this paid off as Sega was eventually able to overthrow Nintendo's market share over the home video game console industry. All of this was done in part by the success of Sonic the Hedgehog. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Sonic the Hedgehog became an instant classic.